with the Heisman Trophy drama. Jayden Daniels came away with the Heisman for those of you who have been living under a rock. But we wanted to talk about if they got it right. We got a couple of college football fans here, so I wanted to get their input here. Dodge, you're always a very well opinion man on college football, even with the Heisman. So let's hear your thoughts first.
That I am. I think I was comfortable with them choosing Jayden Daniels to win the Heisman. He had statistically the best season out of all the quarterbacks. I do think they got second place wrong, though, and I'm surprised Penix was as close as he was, because Penix did not have a spectacular season. Penix was spectacular in the first, 9 games, maybe 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 3 or 4, not really anything that to, write home about. Obviously, I watched the WSU game, the Apple Cup, and he was not good. He wasn't good at the Oregon State game either. I know it was raining, it was torrential downpour, but the fact is that he didn't close out well. He didn't play good, and he was being carried by the rest of his team. So I actually think Bo Nix should have been second. Bo Nix only threw 3 picks all year, and he had 40-plus touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure on the number, but
46 total. But
46 total.
40 through the air and 6 on the ground.
And to me, he almost had as good of a statistical season as Jayden Daniels did. Very similar. The only difference is that Daniels pushed the ball down the field more. He also, and Bo Nix had a higher completion percentage. I also think it's maybe a little unfortunate that LSU, I think, kept their clips that have been coming out about keeping Daniels in when they're up 49-14 over Georgia State, and he's throwing 50-yard bombs, and that's a little unfortunate. But I'm okay with them choosing Daniels. I think Bo Nix got a little bit robbed because I think he had a statistically better season, and I think he's more valuable to his team than Penix is. So,
Kid, what do you think? I know we talked a little bit, and you weren't a big fan of the 3 losses.
I know.
Yeah.
No, that's one point I do want to bring up is, 8-3 is kind of hard to give to someone with the Heisman. I know they've given it to people in the past that do have 3 losses, but his team isn't playing for a college, for a national championship. Penix team is. So 13-0 compared to 8-3 or 9-3 is something I think that made it a little bit closer than it should have been. I think if Bo Nix would have beat Michael Penix in the Pac-12 championship game, he had a good shot at winning it. I think he lost out his Heisman when they lost that game. I'm okay with it too, but I also think Jayden Daniels did stat pad a lot. But I also think that they looked at Penix's first couple games, and that kind of momentum rode him throughout the whole year because he was throwing almost 500 yards a game, it seemed like, to start the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, late year kind of struggled. But, if you're a Washington fan, you're playing Texas, you're playing for a national championship. I don't think you can be too distraught over him not winning the Heisman.
No, I think that's a fair criticism too. The 3 losses, and I think that's why I'm a little upset that Bo Nix wasn't second, was because what really are we just gonna say just because he didn't win the conference championship barely, that he's a distant third in the Heisman voting, when I do think if he won that game, and Oregon was going into the playoff, I think Bo Nix wins the Heisman. So I don't know. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, no, I watched a video the other day of all the people who have won a Heisman with 3 losses, and I don't remember every single one, but I know RG3 was on that list, and I know Tim Tebow was on that list. 2 names that people definitely praise in college football history. So it's interesting. I think for sure. I'm not gonna act like I watch college football that much, but I definitely follow from afar. I would say, but I think it's interesting because they all have different storylines. I think the storyline with Penix is, when's the last time UW went 13-0, and I think he kind of rejuvenated this team in a lot of ways. But as Dodge pointed out, there's a lot of weapons he has. Rome and Dunze, is that how you say his name? And
Yeah, Roma Dunze.
yeah, I mean, so many other guys I'm gonna forget, but he has weapons all over the field. And I think all of these quarterbacks do. I mean, if they didn't have weapons, like, they wouldn't get yards, right? So, but I think statistically, Jayden Daniels is undeniable what he did this year. But I do think the 3 losses in an argument. And I do like the point of Bo Nix. There is a chance that he gets more hype if he wins that Pac-12 game. So, but he didn't. So yeah. Any other thoughts on the Heisman?
Yeah, just that I think it's also interesting how connected everybody, like all 3 storylines are, as well, as much as they are different in this season. All
All
3 are
transfers.
transfers.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really interesting. Maybe Auburn wishes they had Bo Nix now. Maybe Arizona State wishes they still had Jayden Daniels, and maybe Indiana. Although the Indiana transfer is a little bit different, but maybe Indiana still wishes they had Penix. So
They're also old as shit too. They're all like 25.
And that'll be an interesting thing when we talk about draft eventually, is that a
Yeah.
lot of the quarterbacks will be
24, I think.
actually
around there,
older than some of the replacements, people they're replacing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it'll be interesting for sure.
I saw a thing where a bunch of voters from the South came out with their top 3, and Penix wasn't even on their top 3. So there's a little bit of controversy saying that people from the South were leaving him off so that Jayden Daniels would win the Heisman.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I saw that too. There's definitely some regional bias and everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I honestly don't think Penix just had a good enough season to win the Heisman. His team did, but I don't think he did.
Do you
Little
think
like Andrew Luck.
Do you think Marvin Harrison deserved to be in this conversation?
No. Ohio State receiver. There's always an Ohio State receiver every year that has a similar stat line to him. It was just his year.
Yeah.
Very talented guy. Will be a high draft pick in the NFL. I think he'll be probably pretty dang good in the NFL. I don't think he's Heisman worthy though.
But he didn't do anything to go Heisman, you don't think?
Nothing out of the ordinary that we see from top receivers.
No Devontae Smith?
No.
no, I agree with Dodge. I think the quarterback numbers this year were just way too high for a receiver really to be kind of in that conversation. But I also want with Harrison Jr. I saw a thing where they're potentially offering him 15 million or more in NIL deals to come back. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, would you come back and play for Ohio State next year, or would you go pro?
So I did see reports on this, and I've seen that they're fake, and I've seen that they're true. So it's very interesting, but it's supposedly they're trying to make the salary the same as if he got drafted. So that would be interesting. Personally, I'd go in the NFL.
I was gonna say, what would you do if you're in his shoes?
I
Because I know he wants to win against Michigan, and I know he wants to win a Big Ten title, and he hasn't been able to do that. So, what would you do?
I love loyalty to the university, but the thing is that Ohio State's getting a transfer quarterback. Kyle McCord might be going to Nebraska. Hey. Cam Ward, speaking of WSU, might be going to Ohio State. So that would be interesting. But
Have fun, Ohio State.
I don't think he comes back just because I don't see how Ohio State's going to win next year. Especially with the addition of the Pac-12 teams. So, yeah, I think I'd leave for college I'd leave for the NFL if I were him.
I also think it's one of those things where you can't miss your window of going into the NFL draft sometimes. I know we talked about it about Jake Browning, how he had a great couple first years, kind of missed his window. So, I mean, I think that can't be understated sometimes, if you want to be a high draft pick, you gotta go when you're that high draft pick projected. So unless you think you can top it, which we'll see. So
I mean, I think whenever he'd leave, he'd be a top draft pick. He's just the talent is there. The biggest issue is you're giving yourself another season to possibly tear an ACL or an Achilles, and that will drop you. So.
Yeah, very true. Very true.